Now we're gonna talk about this, man. We're gonna talk about this. I've always told y'all, when TRU talks, you listen. I've always told y'all, when TRU talks, you listen. I told y'all that I don't ever trust Philly. I told y'all I only trusted Philly with Butler, but it came down to a Butler versus Kawhi. But I only trusted Philly when Butler was there. I told y'all that Butler was a closer. He put the team on his shoulder, and Redick. It was them two. I always told y'all. Embiid, Simmons. Like, I always told y'all that team you cannot trust. And this is literally like, I know people will find a way to, oh my God, you're hating. It's not about hate. It's, I just, when I watch certain things, and when you could see, if you have that eye and you've been in that and you experience that, you know whose palms are sweaty. You know who is who. There's just levels to this. There's levels to everything. You have to have a gauge meter. I've talked about this from before. You have to have a gauge. You can't teach that gauge meter. You only can get that gauge from being there. And this is what I'm saying. Like, when you go back to their first playoffs, and obviously, yes, it's their first playoffs, but we've seen Trey in his first playoffs. We've seen Dame get a series clincher and like buzzer beater in his first playoffs. We've seen Devin Booker. We've seen Luka. We've seen Tatum. We've seen all these guys in their first playoffs. Their first playoffs versus Tatum in his first playoffs. Remember, that was when Kyrie was injured. That was the first playoffs. Remember? And it was the Celtics versus the Sixers. And what happened? The Sixers were anticipated and the favorites to win that series. And what happened? Ben Simmons went a time at 1 point, right? We already knew what we knew from Ben Simmons. But what I want to highlight the most is because Embiid's ability, and he's supposed to be the one. People were like, oh my God, Shaq needs a Kobe. Shaq didn't shoot jump shots. Shaq was breaking chests, lacked free throw shooting, stuff like that. So yes, he was more equivalent to Giannis, where now he needs a Kobe. He needs an ability getter. But Embiid is the Hakeem. Embiid is the Irwin. Embiid is the ability getter. He's that post player. He's that post presence. You don't need another, you know what I mean? You don't need another Kobe. You're supposed to be that. You're the Kareem. You know what I mean? That's what you are. You're not just only breaking chests in the paint to score. You get fouled. You make your free throws. You shoot high percent. Like, is people just, you comparing that to Shaq? Like, it's just funny. Like, don't do that. Don't do that. Like, learn the game. Learn the game, please. Learn the game. Learn the game. I know people have been saying that. It's just excuse giving. I don't baby mans. No excuses out here. We don't baby mans out here. No. Understand the game and let's go on a proper scale and just rate, and mans have to be better. If you rate them, if you're an MVP caliber player, you're on this level, you almost got MVP, you're a finalist, you have to be better. If you're of that ilk. Not only that, he's a man who trolls mans. He kills mans, he celebrates, he flexes, he goes on, like, he does all of these, celebrations, trolls mans on social media. Like, this is who he is. So, no, you're not. You're held to a higher standard. Go to work, back up your actions. You can't be talking bear smack and not back it up. And like, I'm going to go into it. What I mean by palms being sweaty is when I look at a drastic level of play in the most pressure moments than what you normally do in the same game, not even like regular season. The same game you're killing. We've seen this even on those comebacks in the same series. We've seen this where he's killing the first quarter. He's celebrating. He's frying ability. You're like, oh my God, Embiid's here, yo. He's not playing around. I rate it. Let's go. And then you now see the fourth quarter. Not one of those ability applied. It's just regular schmegular jump shots or try draw foul, pass. Even shots you would have, you pass. Before every play, post Embiid, Embiid in the post, Embiid in the post, Embiid in the post, Embiid in the post. In the first quarter or whatever. Then the fourth quarter is not. Now we're doing actions for Seth. Now we're not doing post every play. That's what we're doing. And you can see a drastic level of play, the energy from that guy, the aggression, the confidence. You can see it changes. It's not the same. It's like he's shooting, hoping it goes in. He's not the same aggression, the same confidence. I'm that guy. Like, you've seen that from Trey, miss or not. You've seen him. Right? That's that killer mentality. That's what I say. It comes down to mental, not skill. Embiid lacks no skill. No skill. What? You can't ever discredit Embiid's skill ever. That's just no IQ. It's the mental capacity. That's why I always say there's people who have strong mental game and they don't have the skill. You got guys like Westbrook, right? I mean, skill of them ones. Giannis, right? You got guys of that ilk. There's guys who have somewhat of that mental game and somewhat of that skill. You got guys like LeBron, right? You got guys like, so they're going to have hit or misses. They're going to be like this. But regardless, you know what I mean? They're on that level still because they're above average in each aspect, right? You got guys like LeBron. There's guys like, who else is like that? There's other guys like, I can't even name other guys like that, but there's guys of them, like they fluctuate. They're not just killer always. Sometimes I go to the past, like, you know what I mean? They change. But they have the mental capacity of where they're above everybody else, and not their palms sometimes get sweaty, sometimes it's not, sometimes, you know what I mean? And then they have the skill ability where sometimes they display it, sometimes they don't, and it's kind of dependent on what is at hand, the confidence they have that they're feeling that day. It kind of goes with that. So it's kind of like, you know what I mean? Then you have the other spectrum where there's guys who have the skill, which is Embiid, but the mental capacity is not there. That killer mental, I'm talking about in clutch. We're talking about in the highest pressure. It's not there. Then you have the Dames, the KDs, the Kyries. Harden, sometimes that's what he's been in Houston. The skill, but the mental in the clutch is not there. His palms get sweaty, right? That's what was happening in Houston, right? Stuff like that. You've seen guys of that, right? DeRozan, the skill is there. Palms are completely sweaty, right? So then you have the other end where it's KD, Kyrie, like I was saying, Steph is also one of them. The skill is there, but then palms get sweaty, right? Do you have guys like, the Clays, the KDs, the Kyries, the who else is there? There's a plethora of guys, Dames. You see D-Book doing that CP3. Like, you've seen guys who are literally on this high tier level of skill meets mentality. 100 on each. And that's where you see the difference. MJ, Kobe, like you see those ilks. It's hard to kind of put it in a box and hard to kind of like, define it. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, like, you got to understand, like, there's levels to all of this. And that's kind of like the most simplistic way I could kind of put it, where that's how I gauge players in these moments. Now, Trey is also adding to that tier as well, too. Like, you're seeing that, right? You're seeing that from guys even now, even in this offseason, right? You're seeing that. Or this playoffs. So now, when you look at Embiid, even from earlier versus Tatum in his rookie year, what happened? They literally were up in all these, like, what was it? They lost 4-1. They lost in 5. But they were up in a lot of those games. They were up. Even at home, they were up. Same thing you see transpire right now versus Atlanta. They were up. And then what happens? Turnover. Bad play. Celtics win. Like, you literally see them give up leads that should have no poise. And that's literally choking. That's literally no mental. From Ben, no mental wherewithal, no mental. That's mental weakness. You see that from Embiid. Mental weakness. From your main two guys, and it trickles down to everybody else. And then the team just moves fugazi. They always give leads. Up 5 with a minute left. Up 10 with 5 minutes left. You see it all the time. From day one. When I saw that from day one, I said, this is a problem. Because it's not like, normally when you're a day one person coming in, you might make a 1-2 mistake. You've killed. Then you make 1-2 mistake and you're learning on the fly. But being palm sweaty, when your palms is sweaty, perfect example, like Kobe versus the Jazz, right? When you got those 3 air balls, it wasn't palm sweaty. You seen his short. He's taking the shot. You taking the shot, taking the ability shots. It's not even like he's taking a scared set shot. He's taking ability shots that he would normally take. And what happened? Air ball on target, air ball. Next one on target, air ball. Next one on target, air ball. That's why Shaq went to him and said, the fact that our palms were sweaty, no one wanted to take a shot, and then you came as a rookie playoff man. And you decided to take that. That's why Shaq said, those same shots they're laughing at you for, they're going to fear you for. Trust me. Shaq knew. Like, players know. What the same thing in Dame in his first playoffs. Come on now. Game winners upon game. Like, what are you talking about? Devin Booker. You see the list goes on. Tatum in that same playoffs. Like if you're of that ilk, there's different levels of mistakes you will make. You're still going to kill because you're of that ilk. But the mistake you make is not going to be blatant fugazi mistakes that like you shouldn't even make, even if you're a rookie. Despise if you're a rookie or not. You shouldn't be making those mistakes. Constant too in the clutch. And when I seen that, I'm like, this is not. This is a character makeup. This is a character deficiency. I could see it. You're mentally just. That's your character. That's who you are. You're mentally just not. That's why you don't see guys. Rarely do you see guys mentally go from one end of the spectrum where they've always been nervous in all these moments constantly to all of a sudden killing in the clutch. That's why you've seen DeRozan even when he goes to the Spurs. You see him in the play-in. It's the same story. He's always been. That's just a character makeup. It's just who you are. It's just who you are. I'm just being real. Like, it sounds like I'm being harsh and I'm just being real. If you know, you know. If you play, you know. There's guys who, my goodness, they're killing in runs. Once the minute the game comes on, they don't even want the rock. They'll pass it back to you. Your teammates killing in warm-ups, splashing everything. And once the game starts, pass it back to you. Clapping, hitting corner of the backboard of the opposite corner. Like, come on now. Like, you've seen this. You've seen this. If you played, you've seen this. You've been a part of it. Or maybe you have been one of those ones too. You know, just be honest. Every man gets nervous. Every man's palms get sweaty. But you have to control it. You have to have you have to be able to detach from that feeling and go into a next feeling of, yo, I'm about to fry. I'm that guy. Are you stupid? And you tell yourself these things and hype yourself and you kill. That's what happens in those moments if you're of that ilk. That's what happens. I don't even need to talk to a player, and I tell you, if you were to ask them, they'll tell you if they were to break it down and think actually think of how their brain works in those moments. That's what happens. That's why they say they love that nervous energy where everyone, you kind of feel that, woo, we in this, and some mans get nervous and you can see in their face, they're kind of just walk. Even Embiid when he walks, it's like his head's down. Like, you could see the body language. Some mans are like, they just get overwhelmed, and then some mans, you could see them just like, yo, they ready, like, woo. You can see them like confident, like they're walking like straight face, like Kobe face, like, yo, what the? I feel it and I love it. It's that time. Then that's when they just amp and they just turn it up because you could just feel it. You could feel the momentum. You could feel the energy in the room, in the building, or whatever. Just like, yo, it's that moment now. Mans are nervous. It's that moment now. You can see a man will make a turnover. You look at him like, God damn, you clap that bad on that shot. Okay, I know what time it is now. You know what I'm saying? Like, so then now you have to be the one to carry. That's why they say, and it is basketball players, you can see one guy can literally change everything, even though it's a team game. So Embiid, that's been Embiid from time. That's why I said I will never trust Philly. And I said the same thing with the Bucks. Giannis in the clutch is the same. I'm not trusting them and with Giannis and Ben because of the lack of ability. There's only so much you could trust. It's going to come down to Embiid, Middleton, Tobias, Drew. That's what it's going to come down to. And I even canceled out Embiid. I actually said it's not even going to come down to Embiid because I know soft the care. I've seen it time and time again. He doesn't operate on that mental. He doesn't operate. I've seen this versus Toronto the next year. You know what I'm saying? I've seen this it was Butler. I've seen it. So I already know Embiid's not going to be the one carrying in the clutch. That's why I said it's relevant. Who do you trust in the Bucks, right? It's going to be Middleton and Drew. Who do you trust for Philly? It's going to be Seth and Tobias. That's the same. That's why I said both those teams I don't trust. And if I am to trust, it's going to be those two guys on both teams. They're going to be the ones that's going to really dictate this outcome. They're going to be. So do you really trust them to do it? That's what my question always was. It's going to come down to those two for each team. Do you really trust? Both teams, they're very similar. The only difference is Embiid and Lopez. Embiid is way better than Lopez, and he's a post presence. But Lopez used to be a post presence that not like Embiid was, but he used to play like that. But Lopez has to be on the perimeter from three. Sometimes Embiid can't be in the paint because Ben Simmons is in the paint, so you see him playing on the block or facing up, whatever. Or sorry, on the high elbow or three-point line. But it's literally the same type of the team dynamic is literally the same. Great defense, shooter shoot, dictate off of those two run into the paint. The difference is the Bucks, their shooters stay on the perimeter while Embiid goes to the paint, right? And that's why you have that clash with the Ben play style. Embiid's supposed to be a post player, shoot threes here and there. That's why I said I even trust the Bucks more because of the play style dynamic. There's only one player with a weakness. You have one player with a weakness, and then the other player eats off the paint, so he has to go somewhere else. Like, there's already a clay style clash. Lopez isn't an all-star enough to say, I need the paint too. He just was okay chilling on the corner. He's okay with that. He's playing, he's sacrificing for Giannis. And just the way their camaraderie is and everything, and just the play styles don't clash. And even then, Giannis is not like a Ben who won't even shoot and stuff like that. Like, Giannis will shoot, he's attacking, he's still going to give you 30. Like, they're the better version of what Philly is. Let's be honest. And that's what I said they were comparable. But it came down to those two guys. You've seen it with the Nets, how Middleton came clutch. Holiday in the last stretch of the fourth. If it wasn't for that, Nets would have won that game. Frying. 7 straight points? Even though he was struggling. That's where you see the Seth Tobias, and that's what you always see. Tobias was struggling. And even then, he would make some. Got the and one. Like, it was all him trying. Early in the quarter, you saw Embiid. Obviously, yes, he scored 7 straight points or whatever to start the quarter. I'm like, okay, Embiid, you're changing, and this is what I want. Then what happened? Once the Hawks pushed back and fought back, and it was a tight game, 6 minutes, 7 minutes down, the man missed every shot, didn't even take a shot, only made 1 shot at the high free throw line. Everything else was misses or just passes. Passes, not even being aggressive. Literally just going through motions. That's what you saw from him. Like, it wasn't aggression. And that's where, like, people will blame Doc. They will blame Ben. But me, I don't do what they do. I don't. It's the truth here. It's the truth here. Truth hurts. It does. But it's the truth here. I blame Embiid because everybody else, Dame, you didn't see him just, I'm only going to pass to CJ and then now we're going to blame CJ. He said, y'all are struggling. I'm going to take over. And even though they lost, he was the one that pushed it as furthest as it could go. If it wasn't for him, it would have been a blow in that fourth. He pushed it as far as it can go in that game 5. Or was it game 6, sorry. Then you seen Jokic try to push as far as it could go. You seen even Tatum when he had 50, had one game where he pushed it as far as it could go and he got the win. You seen Booker push it as far as it could go, he got the win. When he was facing the Lakers and whatever. You see him facing other teams as well too. CP, push it as far as it could go. He got me, bucket. You seen all these guys. Luka, push it as far as it could go. Didn't get the win. Kawhi, game 6, push it as far as it could go. Got the win. I'ma carry it, bucket. PG, you seen that as well. In the game 5 or whatever in Utah. You seen it as well from even Reggie. You seen role players also do it as well too. You seen who else in the East? Trae Young, like you seen in this game. The man is cold. A man went from cold. That's the most difficult tier is when, like, if you're hot, it's easier. Still difficult, but it's easier. But when you're now cold the whole game and then you go hot at the right time in the most pressure moment, that's literally like, that's why I say you're mentally strong. That's why Trae's of that ilk. I've always said he is. I've seen it you've seen it versus the Knicks. You've seen it time and time again. That you've seen Trae Young literally go hella cold, struggling. Does he just shy away and not shoot no more and just give Herter the ball even though he's frying? Yes, you hear and you help it and Herter, you raid him. But at the end of the day, Trae keeps shooting. Still killing on 3, still trying to shoot, keep shooting. Keep being aggressive. Then kill, then bucket. 3 straight or whatever he did. Drawn fouls, like still aggressive, even then still missed one, like not shying away. That's you're of that ilk. That's literally the definition of Mamba mentality. No excuse. You just produce, don't give up, don't shy away. Fight to the end, fight to the death. You've seen all these guys do that except Embiid. How can you in the same series, in a game 4, be up 18, go 0 for 12? That's what I told you. It's always, for Embiid, it's never the first half. It's always the fourth quarter, the third quarter. That's always what it is when you see meltdowns, when you see now the pressure is coming, the team is fighting against you. Now it's here. It's, oh my God, they came back. The pressure's here. And you could just see and the team always follows what the main guy's energy is. I always tell people that. That's why you don't, leading by example is more important than leading off being vocal, whatever. Like, you lead in, like, that's why you see Kawhi. You just the energy. When you see a player, when you're a role player and you look at your main guy and the main guy looks depleted, his body language is changing, he's missing the shot, he's getting a turnover. Like, when he starts folding and just, just basically blowing up before your eyes. You know what I'm saying? When you see that, it trickles down to the rest of the team. Because now the role players have to have the fight in them to be like, no, I'm a carry. It's role players. Rarely do you see a role player just snap out of it and just carry for that guy, unless he's a superstar playing as a role player, or it's another superstar you're playing with. But most of the times, it trickles down to the rest of the team. This was exactly what you saw with Braun and OT when he was mad when J.R. Smith did what he did. And Braun was mad and he looked depleted and he just gave up. what happened to the rest of the team? You could just see the energy just removed from them. In the huddle, no man's talking to each other. No man's consoling each other. It's like they gave up. They felt depleted, and then what onslaught. That's literally what happens. Your leader dictates everything. It's the same way, even just in a household. If someone is, something happened, a bad thing happened, someone dies, whatever the case, then you see the head leader start crying and start like, oh my God, what are we going to do? Everyone else is going to panic. That's why you see the leader of the head of the household or whoever, the strong one, whether the mom, the dad, whoever it is. The kids don't watch them cry. They might see them cry for a moment, but they don't, you know what I mean? They dictate what goes on, their energy. Like that's what leaders do. That's what being a leader is. It's not, just get an assist. It's your demeanor. That's what, when you see that from Embiid. You literally see him, even when he's walking, it's like he's moping, and then now mans are gonna I'm not bringing up the injury. I rate him for playing on the injury, whatever. But he was frying. If you're playing on an injury and you're struggling like Harden, then I can't even, it's kind of like I will never say nothing. Like, you're trying, you're literally hobbled. But when I see a man frying, I see a man celebrating, I see a man killing. Every game you're killing. One, I rate you for killing, but now in the fourth, I'm not gonna bring up that injury because you've killed on that injury. So that's why I didn't bring up no meniscus tear for Embiid at all. Like, you have to, at some point, every man, there's even certain man, we've seen Kobe play with a bone spur. We've seen, there's bare injuries that mans don't even talk about. I wouldn't be surprised if KD, his hamstring was actually, he wasn't fully 100% or something. There's mans are injured. Man, at this point, mans are injured. They just don't say nothing. So when you always highlight my injury, that's, again, shows me your mental makeup. When his press conference, after he lost. When you just, come on now. You've been frying. No man highlighted the injury when he was frying. People had him winning even with him frying. People had him winning even with Ben's limitations, even with Doc as a bad coach. So why, if they did what they normally do, why is it on them? When you had them winning with the context of who they normally are. If you think Doc is a Fugazi coach and he don't adjust and whatever, you still, with that coach, thought Philly was going to win. You still, with that coach, got the number 1 seed. With Ben, with all his limitations, he doesn't take shots on the fourth. He's not aggressive. He's limited. He's Fugazi, whatever you want to say. Still with Ben there, you had them winning Game 7. Still with Ben there, you had them up however you had them up. Still with Ben there, you had them coming out the East. What changed? Embiid in the clutch. That's what changed. That's the only thing that changed. Because why did you have them winning? You said no one could stop Embiid. Embiid is just that guy. They have nothing to do with Embiid. That's why they're going to win. That's what you had. That's what you had. So you can't now, oh my God, it's Ben's fault. Yes, he passed that shit in the paint. Fugazi. We get that. When I know someone is someone, why would I get mad at? I know who you is. And that's why I said with Ben's limitation, the only way they would have to snap is you see Middleton snap when it matters. Drew snap when it matters. With Giannis' limitation, even his limitation isn't even like Ben, and yet they still snap when it matters. So if you have an extra limited guy in Ben, why are you just complacent in the clutch? You have KD with guys who could shoot, and he's not complacent in the clutch. He's frying. You have guys with ability around him. Dame with Melo, CJ. You see him complacent in the clutch and blame mans? I'm not bruh, enough is enough, man. Stop babying mans. Stop babying mans. That has to stop. That has to stop. That has to stop. Now I know, obviously, that, especially when you're now on the other end versus Trey. Trey is of that ilk, but Trey, it's his first playoffs. You've been here. First playoffs. That team on paper has no all-star. That's why I said Ben is the all-star. That's why I remember I said from time, it's irony how it works, man. It's just funny. I said Ben shouldn't have made a play, shouldn't have been an all-star. That's what I said. Ben wasn't supposed to be the all-star. It was supposed to be Trae Young or at worst Tobias. There's no way Ben is an all-star. Stop this flawed system. He is a role player that can play great defense. And he can pass on whatever. He will be an all-star and MVP caliber player. If you put Giannis with Embiid and you put Ben Simmons with the perfect system and everything for him with the Bucks, where now he has shooters, he can just run downhill, you will see a different Ben. That's why the knock I get on Ben isn't as bad as, because I know there's a play style clash. He's already limited, and then you now put him in a situation where he's going to be even more limited. That's why it's like, if y'all kept the same energy with Ben with everybody, then everyone have that play, like Zion, Giannis. Those are the three guys that played a similar type of game. Then it would make sense. But Zion, you know what I'm saying? That's why they gave him the ball as point guard. Zion obviously is even doing better than Ben because, you know what I mean? He still finds a way to get to the paint, even with Adams in the paint and whatever. But at the end of the day, like, it's the similar type of play style. But they have more offensive that at least their offenses at least help. They have personnel that at least help better accelerate their individual play. You have a guy on the block who sits like he's literally a paint dominant guy. And not only that, he's not like he's a paint dominant guy off of just pick and roll. He's a paint dominant guy who's going to get it off ISO. So the ball's out my hand. Like, it's a play style clash, a usage rate clash. Like, it's not the same as Giannis in Milwaukee, where he's ball handling, he's running downhill, he could do whatever the hell he wants to do because man's are shooting. Lopez won't even touch the paint because he's spotting up. You have the paint boy, it's all you. And then now when I don't have the ball, I'm the one setting screens. You have Ben has to give it up to Seth, so Seth and Ben can run pick and roll. Or Seth and Embiid can run pick and roll, pick and pop, off ball, handoffs. So now I have to go to the block. Like, the offense isn't catered for me. The personnel isn't catered for me. So, and Ben doesn't even have to improve his game. He does in that system, but if he goes somewhere else, if he's with the Bucks, like you see, just the same way they say Giannis shouldn't have to shoot, but now you're saying Ben has to shoot? Doesn't Giannis play the same type of point guard role when he's ball handling or whatever? But you say Giannis don't have to shoot, just attack the paint, but you don't say that about Ben? You're only saying that because he's playing in that role. If there was no Embiid, Ben wouldn't have to shoot. This is probably why he doesn't work on his game OD like that, because he sees Giannis doing what Giannis is doing. And now mans are being stubborn. Yo, my way would work. You see the blueprint with the Bucks. This way with Embiid on the block is not working. My way would work. This is a perfect example of that is, remember 2 years ago when they had Butler, they had Redick, and they had Embiid, and Embiid was injured. And it was Ben. Ben was killing when Embiid was injured for a minute to end the season. Killing. He was getting 20, 10. He was getting bare triple doubles with 20 points too. He was frying because the whole paint was his. He was killing. So, like, I already know I have a deficiency. You already know. You know that when you lack ability, I always don't rate you and stuff like that to a certain extent and all of that. But at the end of the day, it's about being fair. That's what the common theme. It doesn't matter who I like, who I dislike, who I rate what ability. It's about being fair. Y'all don't like, you have to understand the game and understand situations is everything. A man could look terrible in this situation and could look like an MVP in that situation. Ben has the same play style as Giannis. There's no difference. If anything, Ben might even do better in that play style because his vision is way more better. So he'll actually, like, times he should actually pass to the corner while Giannis would force it and get patted in the paint. Ben would pass that. You know what I'm saying? He actually would probably look more like even LeBron. He would probably look more like LeBron. Obviously not LeBron will shoot. There's levels. But he would look more like when, you know, those games when LeBron just only attacking the paint and running to the paint and passing. That's what Ben would look like if you gave him that Bucks offense. So that's why, like, I don't really get mad at Ben because I know what Ben is. Y'all saw this and know the play styles and know this and still thought that this team was going to go to the finals. And I always said, I don't trust Philly. That's why regular season, you don't even hear me talk about them that much because I know that shit is cap. In the playoff time, you're going to really see. And you let an underdog Hawks team beat you. And I rate the Hawks for doing that. But on paper, no All-Star. Beat 2 All-Stars. And then one of those All-Stars is an MVP finalist. This is one of the most reckless upsets we've seen in a minute. Let's be honest. Let's really be honest. Let's really be honest. Let's really be honest. It's even worse than the Bucks losing to the Heat, because at least the Heat had a Butler, like, you know what I mean? Trae Young is basically now showing that he's the Butler, but on paper there's 0 All-Stars because y'all want to stick to stats and all the 0 All-Stars, and y'all have 2 All-Stars and one's an MVP, and potentially one was almost an All-Star, the third guy in Tobias. So you basically technically have 3 All-Stars. You have your own big 3. You do. They're getting paid like that too. You have your own big 3 while it's Trae Young in rookie contract still. Bruh. And who else? Capella's like, come on now. Yo, come on now. And I rate every single buddy on Atlanta because I know that's why I always say there's a skill difference. When you have skill, anything is possible. When you have skill, every player, like only one who's limited on skill is Capella and I'm forgetting his name. Damn. Let me go here. Capella and the other big that what's his name, man? The other big that comes off the bench for him. The only 2 guys who without the skill. You know what I'm saying? What's his name? My fault. Yeah, Okongwu. My bad, bro. Those are the only 2 guys that lack ability. Everybody else is 3-and-D, could shoot, and their 3-and-D guys are skilled guys. Like Herter isn't just a shooter. You clearly saw that. Baby. He said Seth is a baby. Trae Young isn't just a shooter. You know that. John Collins isn't just a shooter. You know that. Clint Capella is just a roller. That's it. Bogdanovic isn't just a shooter. You know that. Gallinari isn't just a shooter. You know that. Lou Will isn't just a shooter. You know that. Solomon Hill, 3-and-D. He's just a shooter. So they have everybody that they mainly play is multifaceted. That's why I always said skill. I only thought Atlanta might lose in 7 due to the Knicks because I know the Knicks crowd is reckless and they've been waiting for it. And I know with their defense, maybe, they find a way to pad Trae and then, Randall is scoring. But in the deep down, I always knew skill is going to beat the defense. Skill is good. In this league, skill is everything. Every man, like you're seeing a skilled team find a way to pad. Like they're going to pad. Like mans are going to pad. But skill is something. When skill is potent, and when I seen game one, I thought the Knicks would win all the games at home. And I knew Atlanta's going to win their games at home. But I thought the crowd was going to be enough because they've been waiting for this. The way the crowd was reckless and rocking, I'm like, okay, Trae Young's first playoffs, but he hasn't been in this waters. Maybe I'm going to give, I'm going to use my brain and just give, the benefit of the doubt to the Knicks fans and just the way they're rocking. And I'm just going to, I'm going to give them the benefit. But deep down, I knew skill, like, if there was a light in the tunnel and then Trae got the game winner in game 1, when he got that game winner and then they're booing him, I said it's over. Once that happened, all that shit went out the window. The man in your own building won with all that ruckus and all that. And it's his first game. He's only going to get more comfortable and is going to be unleashed. And I knew it was over. Well, after that game, I knew it wasn't going 7. I knew it was over. And I said Atlanta for real. Because Trae Young reacted exactly how a killer reacts in that moment. Now when you have that killer, and now he knows he's even a killer more than he already knew when he already knew. What's going to already do something to everybody else. And then it's over. It's over. And now that's what you saw. That game 1 was everything. That meant everything. If he didn't make that floater, maybe the morale changed. That game, that float, once you see that from your dog in the first play, it's over. And plus you have a coach like Nate McMillan, it's over, man. It's over. And that's what you saw from Atlanta. That's why I said, yo, that shit is done. My fault even doubting. My fault even thinking that the crowd wasn't my fault that I didn't think you were going to, kill in your first one into a floater. It's not that I didn't think, but I'm like, that doesn't happen. I always know Trae was of this ilk. That's why I've always been preaching he was an all-star. I always knew that this is what elite looks like. But at the end of the day, I know a lot of people, and let me talk about this before I end this one. A lot of people, when we go back to the Philly side with Doc, a lot of people are going to find a way, like I said, to blame Ben and blame Doc. When Embiid is going to get escaped out of a lot of this, right? He is. Because of the injury and whatever. They're going to find a way, but you know me, I'm realer than real. So I focus on what needs to be focused on, was really the culprit. When you saw what transpired, you seen that this was for the taking. With all of that Fugazi things, if you're that guy, that's what being that guy is. You don't sulk when things aren't, when mans aren't doing what they're supposed to do. When mans are sussing and palms are sweating and maybe a coach don't adjust, whatever. You don't frown and just be chilling there and just, okay, it's on them, and push the blame. Like, even in this press conference, pushing the blame on mans. Like, blaming fouls. Like, are you serious? That's why I'm like, the mental game, like Embiid, yo. You can't be a troll. You can't be man that roast every man. And then this is you take the beta male approach of all of this. Ben at least took ownership. That's on me. I gotta get better. That's where I'm like, at least Ben, at least he doesn't he takes the alpha approach on everything. Even though He does mentally, he's fugazi and he's skilled and whatever. He takes the alpha approach. Even with Giannis, these are guys who lack skill, take the alpha approach in these situations. There's two approaches. You can take the beta approach and blame excuses and throw all that shit in there. Or you can take the alpha approach and say it's on me, my fault, da-da-da-da-da. The only way you take the approach of blaming injuries is like if you're literally like Harden, hobbled on one leg. But if you've been playable, you've been at least an 80% version of yourself. You've been killing. You've been like, you're not going to bring up the injury ever. Half the times most guys are injured, they don't even say nothing. It's later that the reporter comes out, oh, he was dealing with a grade 2. He was dealing with this. You know what I mean? Like, that's what normally happens with underlying injuries. I promise you, Embiid's, like, his knee was literally torn to that level. He wouldn't, as a big body like that, you wouldn't be able to play. It's a small tear, so it's very playable. That's why you've seen him play, still able to dunk, still whatever. It's going to hurt you at times, yes. But he's enough to fight through and whatever, and that's what he was doing. But now you can't bring up that same injury when now you suss the runs in the clutch, when you've been killing in all these games, Now they're going to now attribute it to Doc, right? And this is where it comes full circle. They're going to attribute it to Doc because, again, what narratives do is, narratives ignore context, right? That's why I always debunk narratives. You see me do it all the time. Narratives ignore context. Narratives are kind of like storylines. It's kind of like a summed up version. It's like you don't read the book and you go to Spark Notes, right? That's what man used to do back in the day for book reports. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't read the book, you just go to Spark Notes and you just get an overall. So that's why sometimes in certain questions you get exposed. You don't know how to answer that because now they do a nitty gritty, like, you know, context, what happened here with the actual da-da-da-da. Sometimes the Spark Note talked about that, sometimes it didn't. And that's what happens with these narratives. When you have a sum overall thing, it's easy to sum everything overall and it will create a different story than what actually happened if you really read the book. If you really watched. It's two different answers, two different results, two different narratives, right? Two different things that's happening. So what I mean by that, it's easy to just look at the stats and say, oh, Doc with the bubble was up 18, up this, up that, lost 3 straight. Then with the Hawks, up this, lost 3 straight, right? Doc is the culprit, did. Like, the stats can say that because he is the common denominator in both, right? But let me show you context. I talked about it beforehand. When there was, what's his name? Remember the same thing they're saying about Doc, the same thing they also said about Brett Brown. Remember, when Brett Brown was there and there was no Butler and there was no Redick, what happened? Didn't that same team lose leads versus the Celtics like I told you? Go back and look. They had big leads that they lost. So, was Doc there? No. Okay. Let's go look at the Clippers this year, even with Ty Lue, right? Even with Ty Lue. Didn't they have big leads that they lost? Didn't have situations they should win that they lost? Obviously, Ty Lue adjusted, he figured it out, right? But I'm talking about originally. Weren't they saying the same thing? Remember with Doc, they said the same. Look at the Clippers are just, oh my, they said the same thing. So if you have, that's the context. If you have, doesn't mean the overall end result is the same. But what I'm saying is they've had plethora of moments and games in both scenarios without Doc, where it's been the same thing that you see with him there. So how is it just isolated to Doc? That already debunks that whole narrative. But at the end result, when you now say they lost the series, now you're going to now bring it to Doc. Okay, now let's look at it. Now it does look bad, but now let's look at what happened. Go to the bubble with Doc, and I talked about this before. The problem was guarding Jokic, right? Jokic could pop, Jokic could roll. If you switch everything, Jokic could break your chest because there's a baby on him now. So he literally was unguardable in the scheme of what he does. Sorry. He was unguardable in the scheme of what he does. So when you look at it from that perspective, you know what I mean? Doc, what he did is, okay, Zubac is not working. He's getting fried in this pick and pop situation. Okay, let's play Trez. Trez is not working. He's getting fried in this pick and pop situation. Okay, let's play Jermichael at the 5. Oh, Jermichael's getting fried now on the block because they switch everything. And Jokic now is killing. Okay, let's put Morris at the 5. Okay, he's killing. He literally tried everything. Played Reggie Jackson. Remember, Reggie Jackson was like the Rondo in this series. He wasn't playing OD. Now they played Reggie. They tried to do everything. Small ball. They played a small ball with Morris, and then they put Kawhi. Like, they played everything. Okay, you know what? Let's trap Jokic on the screen and roll. Then now he was diming everybody. Or let's trap Jamal Murray. Then Jokic was diming everybody on the 5 on the 4-on-3. Okay, let's double team Jokic. He's diming. They did everything. I saw it with my own eyes, and it didn't work because the personnel and the way the IQ was of the team, they weren't on a string. They didn't have proper team chemistry. They weren't working like that. You know what I'm saying? TRU has now done better. There's been similarities at moments, but then he now broke through. But is it the same team? No. You see, Man is there now, actually part of the rotation. There's no Lou Will. There's no Montrez. So it's a different team. So you could get that lost in the shuffle now, look like, oh my God, see with TRU. And I don't do that. I rate TRU. He's done adjustments as well too. But it's a different team. There's still the same similar culprits. That's why you still never escaped. There's still similar guys. That's why you never escaped the actual fact that, that's why they were down 0-2. That's because it's similar stuff. But they broke through because they had auxiliary parts that weren't there, that were there before for Doc. Now let's look with the Sixers. What did I tell you? The only time the Sixers went to a game 7 where they literally lost because of the lucky Kawhi shot, was because Butler and Redick were the culprits of killing. They were the culprits of killing in the moment, in the closing time. Every other time when you didn't have those guys, whether it was Doc, whether it was Brett Brown, it was the same results beforehand. That's why you can never trust Philly. So now Doc comes there, and there's now no Butler. It's going to be the same results at hand. And that's why I try to tell people, I'm like, yo, you could, and look again, what happened in these moments? What did Doc do? You're in foul trouble, Ben. You know what? I'm not going to play you. I'm going to play Tyrese Maxey. They won game 6. If Doc didn't adjust, they would have lost that game 6 and would have lost 4-2. What am I going to do? Oh, you got to play Shake. He plays Shake in game 7. Oh, what are you going to do? You got to, Danny Green can't guard Trey. I put Ben on him. Oh, what are you going to do with this and that? We adjust. Give Tobias more looks. Do this. Okay, Seth, run more actions for you. Like, what are mans talking about? Oh, you don't got to play Ben in the clutch. What does he do in game 7? Take out Ben. So everything man said, he doesn't adjust. He doesn't do nothing. And he did it. And yet still, they lost the game. That's where I'm like, I know Doc does adjust stuff late. I understand that. There is something to be said with, obviously it's a coincidence, whatever. But to make it seem like it's all him and he's the culprit, that is cap. It is cap. Because he's just been given random, even with the Clippers, he's been playing again with a deficient Blake Griffin who only did post, and then Blake would get injured or CP3 would get injured. Like, they have deficiencies. So that's why you see, like, it's more than just Doc. That's what I'm trying to say to people. It's cap. Because I'm just not, I just don't, that's how I am. I just don't subscribe to these overall and all statements without everything is context. I can't just sit there and ignore context. I can't. My eyes work. I can't. I feel like it's blasphemous to the game. It's unauthentic and it's disrespectful to the sport. I will never ignore context and just say certain things about a guy and it just it's cap. I always apply context. Always. So when I apply context, yes, Doc has some of the blame. But he's never had, in those situations, he's never had majority of the blame. He's never. It should never have been majority of the blame on him. It's coincidence. It's unfortunate. Things happen all the time. It's coincidence. It's unfortunate. Right? Same with CP3. It's unfortunate. He always gets injured at the wrong time. Always something happens. It's unfortunate. But it's not like you're saying, oh, Chris Paul is like he's so doo-doo because he's always injured all the time at the wrong time. It's just unfortunate. But that doesn't take away from the guy who he is. That doesn't mean he's the culprit. Like, come on now. There's context to everything. It's unfortunate that it's coincidence that Doc is in these things. It's more coincidence than it actually is. It's him sussing the runs. Because I actually watch him, and it's not like Coach Buddy where he wouldn't even adjust. I see him adjust. It might be a little bit late, but he adjusts, and nothing transpires from it. Nothing. Sometimes even adjust early. Nothing transpires from it. Because there's a lack of ability or a lack of awareness or lack of IQ of certain guys. And the only thing what I would say maybe with Doc is that he normally clicks with high IQ guys and his high IQ and his motivate. Like he likes having the high IQ guys. There's a different type of coach that has to bring the high IQ out of the no IQ. And Doc normally he probably doesn't do well with that because he's a prideful. Like he's a guy who has played. So normally it's like if it's normally guys. That's why you see Kobe, Draymond. They're like, yo, I'm not even gonna coach because When you dealing with guys who don't even have your IQ, and it's like, what kind of brain do you have? What are you doing? Like, they don't react well. They're just like, they check out like, yo, I can't rock with you. Trade this guy. Let me get someone else who has this IQ. Like, what is this? You can't think like this. I have to teach you this? And that's where you could see probably Doc doesn't do well. Like, you're seeing a new wave of Pop has also done well with that, where older coaches that normally with old school guys, that's how you talk to them. So they had to go on their own, study film, gain their IQ, then now they come, my fault, Pop, I sussed, you know, my IQ's here, and then okay, I rate you. So you bring the IQ out of them in a non-baby way, in a more, manly type of, yo, step up to the plate, fam. You scold them in like, those old school, hit them type of way. That's how you treat mans. But this newer era, you have to more so baby mans at certain times. You have to teach them, hold them, your IQ is, you've been sussing, you have it in you. Just, you have to rock with me, yo. You have to more teachable and all, like, you know what I mean? You can't be too harsh at times because they take it when they're getting paid this much or whatever, like they take it different ways. This is why you see Chuck say, I will never be a coach. Draymond probably saying, I won't, like he said, it's hard for me to be a coach. You've seen certain guys of that ilk who don't rock like that and came from a different cloth. It's hard for them to be a coach. Kobe, that's why he didn't want to be a coach. Like, it's hard with these newer guys, which is why Butler automatically, I'm out of Minnesota, right? You've seen stuff like that. So that's what I could say where I guess is more so on Doc, where he's from a different ilk, that he doesn't respond probably. He teaches one way. You've seen that with Stan Van Gundy with the Pelicans. They teach one way. They talk about stuff one way, right? So, when you look at it from that perspective, it's like, okay, it's hard for some of these coaches to kind of like turn a new leaf where like, okay, let me find a new way and find a new way of like kind of like talking to these players, getting their attention, help making them become better, stuff like that. It's harder. That's something that's really on the table now for coaches, especially of older generations, to now be able to be coaching and be able to thrive in this newer generation. You can't apply the same exact principles. So I've seen probably Doc isn't adjusting to that. And I know he's trying to cater to Ben more so, but that's a limited guy. But you can't, like, that's probably what's maybe the coincidence, what's coincidence in all these scenarios, right, with Doc. But other than that, there's context. These players have to be held accountable. You can't just, come on now. You have to. So that's why you see probably with the ring with the Celtics, he's done his best with them. And he's had failures everywhere else because everywhere else he's had certain deficiencies on those teams of certain players and, newer era players as well too. So you've seen, and that's probably the only knock I could give against Doc. And that's probably something that is at the table. And he probably would say it himself. Like, he's probably been struggling with that. But other than that, like, a lot of this stuff is cap. I won't subscribe to none of that bullshit, man. It's cap. So, when I look at it from that perspective, this is why his context is everything. I explain the context with that, and I'm not going to, the stats and a lot of these things, well, when you just read it and you're like, oh, God, that looks atrocious. The way it looks, like, you have to see past numbers. You have to see, like, and it's hard, especially when you watch the game and then now it leaves your mind. It's hard for people to remember what actually happened. Like, that's why you see me, I could even do these breakdowns without even bringing up clips of the video because just I don't know, maybe just me, the way my brain works, when I see a play once, I know it just sticks in my head. It just sticks in my head and I just remember everything to the T. I can remember from 2013 a specific play. It might not be to the exact same T anymore because now time has passed, but I remember stuff to the, like, how it transpires, how this, I like vividly. It's like I see it in my eye. It's like I have a projector and I just see the play again. You know what I mean? That's just how my brain works. So like when my brain is on that level of like how I'm thinking of how when I see plays and I see things like this, I can't hear Cap knowing when I vividly see this play happen. This man sussed the runs. I'm going to really blame Doc? When I see this man literally try and draw foul, pass to the corner. Now Tobias has to go for a floater and he misses that. Really? The play was for you to post up and kill in terms of Embiid. Come on now. Like, look at Bud. Same sussing that people say. And who Middleton took over. These guys like, and then now look, Bud is going to be like, oh, he adjusted. He did well in hindsight. Like, come on. Come on. You mans have to think, Pat. Don't let these narratives, you know what I mean? Don't let them. And that's what happens when you're in a bad light of media at any point in time. Now forever, anytime you don't come or you lose a 3-1 or you don't close out 3-2, or they're always gonna now coach. Like it's the same thing. J.R. Smith, once he was in a bad light when he with the LeBron, now it affected him to even get a contract. J.R. is just bonehead. He's bonehead. Right? That's what happens when you're in a bad light once. It always is just now every time you have a regular mishap that every other man has had, or someone even in that same game has probably had. For you, it hits different than everybody else. It's a stigma. It's a stigma that gets painted on you that like the only way to break it is to completely maybe win a ring and you game winner or whatever. Like it's like if you don't do that, it's like same thing you saw with Paul George in the bubble, as if he wasn't the number one option in the Pacers. And as if he didn't go to the conference finals, lead them to the conference finals, kill all the time as the number one option. The only time he's looked fugazi was when he was the number 2 option, or like there's other stars and it's like he's trying to figure it out. That was the common denominator. But now it's pandemic. And then now what happens? Kawhi's injured. Now he's the number 1 and he's killing again. Look, it's like the Pacers again. Now, he broke through. He's always been that. Like, this is what I mean. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's hard to, it's hard to digest these things. And I just here to just debunk narratives, you know what I mean, at the end of the day. So, just unfortunate. So, obviously, it's long videos that I'm doing today because I had a lot to talk about. I see a lot of these wrong sentiments and a lot of these, I'm just had to debunk these narratives. So, I'm not even going to maybe clips come, maybe they don't come. But at the end of the day, like if you know the plays that I'm talking about, I'm just talking today, man. I have a lot to talk about and a lot to just debunk a lot of shit, man, because it's getting out of hand. I'm seeing it all over this whole weekend. That's what I've been seeing all over the place. So, I haven't even seen, I've been making these videos, and then when I recorded this is probably before you're going to see the media actually really get on, on their shit when they talking, when ESPN and all them, and Undisputed and all these guys, first things first, they start talking about, what transpired over the weekend. So you're going to hear them say probably things that I've probably been saying and stuff like that in terms of like the Fugazi narrative. So, it's going to go through another wave again, but I'm just here to debunk that shit, man. Just here to just spread light, give IQ. That's what I do. And at the end of the day, man, hopefully y'all could just, feel me and understand what I'm talking about and really think the game on that level. Because at the end of the day, it comes down to that. It's not that I'm the law, but you'll see there's other purists out there. There's other guys out there that speak the same sentiments that I speak, talk the same. They're like the Hoopers. Like it's just when you understand and when you're a purist on this level, there's rarely anything that the purists disagree on, because the game, it's not. That's why I try to say, as much as it seems and feels like it's opinion, it feels like that when other people say these Fugazi things. So it's like, yes, it's opinionated, right? But when you really talk to the Hoopers, and Hoopers have their arguments, NBA players have their arguments behind the scenes, the barbershop, like real Hoopers and real purists, you'll see a certain proper sentiment that gets agreed upon, because it comes down to it. The game tells you everything. It's not really something to disagree on if you really think about it, right? The game gives you the footage. The game gives you the play style. The game gives you the context. The game, like if you really understand the game, and that's where now the disagreement happens. Certain people, can't comprehend and know how to gauge context of what they saw versus what they saw, and know how to scale it, know how to, differentiate it. They don't know how to. And that's where now it feels like it's opinion. No, the guys who have that meter, that gauge meter, that have that, we all see the game the same way. But now the verdict of it, that's what happens. What's your verdict of what you saw? That's where you now see it feels like it's opinion. But if you really have the real eye and you see what you see and you understand the game properly, the verdicts will normally be the same. The player who is who will normally be the same. The same sentiment will always be the same. That's why purists don't disagree and rarely disagree on anything. And even then, when those purists do disagree on something, there's probably a hidden agenda or a biased love or an affinity for a certain player. But when you remove all of that, they normally do agree on everything, because the game tells you. The game tells you. The footage tells you. So that's what I try to just highlight, to make people see the footage and understand the game and operate on this level. And it's not like what I say is law. What the game shows you is law. It's not. I just know how to read it. That's all. That's the only thing IQ that I have, is know how to read it. But it's not like I'm the law or I'm above anybody else. Y'all all could be on that level too. Just understand it. Just understand. Just go there. Just read. Just train your eye, or listen to me and I'm helping train your eye. You know what I'm saying? Like, That's all it comes down to. It's all it comes down to at the end of the day, man. Like the law is in the footage. The law is like basically it's like someone committed a crime and then they have evidence of that crime being committed. The evidence, that's what it is. The evidence is, you could say this person says whatever, have their opinion or have their verdict, and this case versus that defense lawyer versus that whatever. At the end of the day, once you have that, you're caught on camera. It's hard to get you out of that one, fam. So that's what we have the camera. Mans are caught on camera. The ability, it shows it. So there shouldn't. Why are we disagreeing? Why? Because you're now playing defense lawyer for this player. You're now playing. You know what I mean? That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to defend this guy. The footage is there. That's what we saw. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, yo, it comes down to that. Man. And now we'll go. My fault. I keep hitting this thing. Shit, man. My fault. We'll go on to the next one. Fam.